Something about the $2 limit, which I agree is a huge problem. That's an issue of amending the statute. That you can't do that through the regulations.
It's in the statute.
Because it's in the statute. So that's another issue for all of us.
Discussion.
Perhaps, well, with or without Kim present, but it's something that needs to be
addressed.
That's something that the county associations and the state association should take up in a concerted way to get the statute amended.
Absolutely.
Once we get past this regulatory review.
And I'm not sure, these are two very different issues. If you have a pesticide kill, it's because someone has killed your bees. If you have a foul brood kill, it's
because you
bad
got it
luck.
from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but you're not asking for a fee from somebody else. You're asking that basically the state insure your bees.
Unless they're able to figure out who's responsible for both the pesticide kill and spread of American foul brood. So can we have more support from the apiary inspection program to do that? Can we address that in this new
In order to
revisit?
do that, it's going to require some record keeping in terms of registration, so that you can prove that you had live hives before somebody sprayed them. Right? So they're tied together with the registration issues.
Not to mention the
Not
complication
necessarily,
of
I
having
mean-
the proof that the spray actually killed your bees and your bees didn't just succumb to other things.
Well, you don't necessarily have to register a hive. You have empirical proof by actually seeing a dead hive before you, and your bees can be tested for any kind of residual chemicals.
Mine were found to be positive, tested by the state in a number of things, and that's the problem they have with me right now. They still don't know what I and my lawyers are going to do.
So can we ask for the apiary inspection program to be supported so that they can do the appropriate testing for support of the beekeeper? That's got to be in there somewhere.
This is, in my opinion, there's a tort kind of thing. We have lawyers here that know this better than I do, but I mean, if I kill your hive because I sprayed pesticides improperly, then it seems to me you have a, I should be liable to you, not the state isn't going to reimburse you for that. I mean, it seemed to me that I would be the one that's liable. On the other hand, I catch a disease from somebody else's bees. That'd be like you caught the flu from me. I mean, there isn't a tort involved in that. I mean, it's just the way things are, right? Now, you can maybe argue theoretically there ought to be, but I mean, it's not going to happen. I think it's very important that these inspections are done, and the beekeeping is seen, and I think it's consistent with the pollinator protection plan. The beekeeping is seen as a public service and treated that way, so that you're encouraging people to have more bees. You're encouraging genetic diversity. You're encouraging the health of bees. And I think one way to do that, and we're on pesticides, we're mentioning it anyway, I think bee inspectors should take a course so that they can go and collect samples at the site of bee kills. They're very often the first people there. It takes, the amount of training it would take is half a day to learn how to take a sample and meet the requirements of chain of custody requirements and those kind of things. I've done that kind of stuff myself. I took it's a half a day training to make sure that you're certified that you know how to do that. And the bee inspectors are the ones that very often find these bee kills, or they're the first ones that people call because they know they're bee inspector. And it also gives credibility to the system, because the beekeepers, by and large, trust their bee inspectors. I think bee inspectors have a pretty good reputation in the state, and so I think that would be a very good thing to do, and I think that would be a regulatory thing that could be done. I don't think it has to be done through the law.
So I just want to make sure we capture
just a follow-up to the tax credit possibility, I think one thing that also seems true is there are very few bee inspectors and lots of hives, and so thinking about having stipend for club representatives per city, or for Norfolk County, there's one representative that gives the information from the bee inspector to the club. And having something where, again, a person is rewarded for that, and hopefully catching and capturing as bee school attendees are coming in, encouraging some sort of registration of each beekeeper for that purpose, saying, hey, there's this tax credit. Anybody who's going to be a beekeeper, this is something that you have available to you. Sort of, again, sort of setting the tone in a positive way. I actually had my hives inspected last season. Unbeknownst to me, it was actually really unpleasant to come to my apiary and find that somebody had been in my hives without letting me know, without telling me. And in fact, all my hives were disease-free because I had extraordinary mentorship last season. So to know that someone went into my hives, again, without my knowing and unnecessarily, was really hard for me, especially when there were 2 very sick hives in 100 yards of there that were not inspected. So I really struggled with that, but I'd love to set it up as a beekeeper who wants to do right by the state, who wants to do right by the inspectors, to have a venue where if I know that there's an inspector that's coming to my hives, I want to be there. I want to set it up to not have somebody like crept onto the property and feel like violated when I found out that somebody went in. So that just seems like a relevant thing to mention as a newbie.
So on the topic of mandatory versus voluntary registration, and then as we just sort of talked about what's in the law related to registration. So if you want to just talk, we'll talk about that. If anybody has really strong opinions or in general comments about mandatory versus,
I was just going to add a quick ditto. We had a similar situation to what yours was in that we had checked one apiary site that had 12 hives on a Thursday, and then on Friday, the inspectors came through to go through them all, and notes were, they're aggressive. And we're like, we just went through them. So that would also help make sure to keep things kind of calm, especially if this was in downtown Boston as well. So just wanted to add a short ditto to that. And then maybe to pick a lane here, voluntary would be my option.
voluntary. Okay.
So we're using state money to inspect the hive, taxpayers' money to inspect the hives with this program. There should be some accountability to where the hives are located. So you have to register if you want the inspector to come out, otherwise the MDAR doesn't know where the hives are at if we do have an issue. I mean, the mandatory versus, if I have chickens, when the avian bird flu came out, I got a letter from MDAR saying, hey, be aware of this. The state, if the state doesn't know where your hives are, and we're paying somebody to come out to look at the hives, and they're all seasonal, the home office needs to know where the hives are at. So during the off season, if we have a problem, then that can be taken care of, unless you're going to hire everybody on full time.
I kind of second that. I don't have, a problem with more so people, not so much the registering the hive locations, but people at least registering as beekeepers. So if there is some sort of information, you could do a mass mailing or get some information out, and if people are concerned, then they could contact, there is a list that you are a beekeeper or had bees at one time, and maybe it's updated every 5 years or something. They say, are you still keeping bees or not? But I don't think it's necessary to say, this is everywhere, every one of my hives is, or may be, or will be in the future. That's kind of a little bit overstepping, probably.
Well, there's a distinction to be made there between whether you're talking about registering a beekeeper or
That's right, yeah.
registering individual hives or registering an apiary. So those are 3 different things. A beekeeper could have many apiaries, and obviously each apiary could have many hives. So starting from the bottom there, registering every hive for the reasons I think Alex said, if she had to do a few splits or a hive died right away, that'd be ridiculous. Then going up the chain, registering apiaries, and maybe that's a little bit too much government information and oversight, and registering a beekeeper, same, only maybe less. So.
What's the parallel with chickens? Is it We just keep track of who had chickens?
They take.
You're not registering each chicken, you're registering the chicken yard.
Registering farm, we have chickens, and they register all the livestock in Massachusetts.
he does, I
And,
guess.
If there's an issue with anything, they know that if it's in a certain town, they can go into that town and look for, that disease or that, or check those flocks, or check those livestock.
Do they,